I'm 40. My name's Irina. 10 years ago, I became a widow. And since then, we've lived just the two of us with my son Kirill in our cozy little house outside Milwaukee, in the scenic small town of Janesville. I got married super early, at 19, and almost right away, little Kirill was born. Now he's already 20. Totally grown man, my one and only. Our life flowed steady and chill. Kirill always been a real homebody, super attached to me. He started working early as helper for the local finish work master Uncle Sam. Often, when no jobs, he spent evenings with me and we talked for hours about everything under the sun, cracked up, watched movies. I always guarded our bond real close, because after hubby died, he became my main rock. But lately, I started noticing Kirill changed. These shifts were barely catchable, but me, as mom, felt him in every cell of my body. He started locking himself in his room more, sometimes for whole hours, though before that never happened. His room, usually wide open, now almost always stayed shut. He got pensive, distant, and our convos, which used to be so lively, now mostly came down to one-word answers. I tried not to let on anything was off. Figured maybe it's the age, transition phase, though what transition at 20-yo? But inside me worry kept building. Kirill was my whole world, and watching him pull away was unbearable. One day, when Kirill wasn't home, I decided to tidy his room. That was my usual habit. I always kept the house spotless and orderly. Stepping into his room, I right away caught some new, unfamiliar scent. It was subtle, kinda sweetish, and for some reason super reminded me of ripe pear. I got surprised, because Kirill never been into cologne, and we didn't have pears in the house. My eyes fell on his bed, and I spotted several damp spots on the sheet. They were almost invisible, but my mom instinct instantly knew what it was. In that moment, I felt a mix of pride and worry. My boy grew up, he became a man. It was so natural, but at the same time so scary. I understood it's normal, but I felt uneasy. I didn't know how to start a talk about it, how to voice my thoughts so as not to embarrass him. That day, I decided I had to talk with him. When he got back from work, I asked him to give me a little time. He agreed, but his look was kind of scattered, and he himself looked super tired. I started from far away, trying to pick words. Kirill, sweetie, I know you grew up, became totally big. You're a man now, and I'm super proud of you. I'll always be here and you can count on me. I got nobody but you, I said, looking into his eyes. But his gaze, it slid over me, like he wasn't listening. He stared at my flowing satin dress that hugged the figure on my new silk scarf tied at the neck, and then his gaze lingered on my legs, where thin nylon stockings hugged the ankles, and patent pumps on a small heel slightly glinted. It seemed to me he was interested only in that, not my words. That upset me big time. How can he be so distracted when I'm trying to talk about something important? Our talks got rarer. Kirill spent most time with phone in hands, lost in his thoughts. Once, when he got distracted in the kitchen, I couldn't resist and grabbed his phone. I wanted to understand what occupies him so hard, who he's texting. To my surprise, it wasn't messages. He watched videos, tons of videos. These were clips with unusual dances, where girls showed super flexible moves and sometimes slipped frames where close-ups showed their calves and feet in high-heel shoes. I felt mixed feelings. On one hand, I was upset he's so hooked on this, but on the other, it was natural display of his male side, and I understood my son is growing. I always tried to look put together at home, even when just us two. I liked wearing light cotton house dresses with floral print or satin slips that emphasized the figure, and on feet always neat mule slippers. Seemed to me it created cozy vibe. Summer came. Kirill announced he's heading with buddies for a week-long camping trip to the Great Lakes. Mom, we're going for a week with the guys to the lakes, roughing it, tents, he said, stroking my hair. I hugged him. Sure, sweetie, be careful. Rest good and call often. That whole week I enjoyed the solitude. I slept till noon, walked around the house in whatever, sometimes in old but fave t-shirt and short shorts, sometimes just in long cambric nightgown. I did whatever I wanted, not thinking about anything. It was so unusual, but at the same time, so freeing. On the second day of his absence, I, as usual, went to bed. I was already in that pleasant half-drowse, when mind still a bit awake and body already relaxes, when suddenly I heard the front door open. Heart skipped. I thought maybe imagination or neighbors. But then I heard quiet steps down the hallway, and a moment later my bedroom door slowly creaked open. I pretended to sleep. In the doorway appeared Kirill's figure. He came to the bed and quietly sat on the edge. "Kirill, what you doing here? Ain't you at the lakes?" I asked, trying to sound calm, though inside everything clenched from surprise. "Mom, weather turned bad there. Got boring. I decided to come back," he whispered. "Good, sweetie. Change and hit the sack." "I'm so beat today. Cleaned all day," I answered, turning to the wall. He stood up, and I heard him leave and close the door behind. I fell asleep just like that, not giving it any meaning. I woke up in the morning from some sticky feeling. Sliding my legs off the bed, I stepped on something wet, turned on the light, and saw on the bedroom floor several wet, shapeless spots. I flinched. Could this be what I'm thinking? Could it be Kirill? But why here, in my room? Brain refused to believe. I felt knocked off balance, but at the same time a weird, unexplainable curiosity sparked inside me. I didn't know how to talk about it, or if I even should. Mini summary of part 1. Irina, 40-year-old widow, notices weird changes in her 20-year-old son Kirill's behavior. He turns closed off, spends tons of time in his room. Trying to talk to him, Irina feels Kirill is distracted by her looks. In her son's room, she finds strange stains, and later discovers he's watching erotic videos. One night, when Kirill is supposed to be camping, he unexpectedly comes home and sneaks into Mom's room, leaving behind on the floor strange wet spots. Review of Part 1. Continue. Irina's story, Part 2. Mysterious coincidences. 2 or 3 days passed since that weird morning. Kirill and I lived like usual, trying not to touch the topic of his sudden return, and, of course, those spots. I pretended I noticed nothing, though inside me a storm of questions raged. My heart pounded just remembering. I tried convincing myself it was just water, or that I spilled something myself. But an inner voice kept whispering different. In the evening, when I was almost asleep, my bedroom door again quietly cracked open. I instantly knew who it was. My body tensed, but I kept pretending to sleep, breathing even. Kirill slipped in noiselessly. I felt him approach the bed. Then I felt a light, almost weightless touch on my hand lying atop the blanket. Goosebumps ran down my body. I knew it was my son, but his presence in that moment felt so unusual. He lay down beside me on the very edge of the bed. I felt his warmth, his breathing. Heart hammered in my chest like crazy. Then I heard some quiet, strange sound, like something soft and wet smacking. I couldn't figure what it was, but curiosity won over fear. I risked cracking one eye open, just a tiny bit. In the dim nightlight glow, I saw his silhouette. He sat on the bed, slightly leaned forward, and was eating a pear, that exact one whose scent I caught in his room. He ate it so into it that it seemed he fully melted into the process. Juicy chunks disappeared in his mouth, and sweet juice dripped down his chin. I lay watching him, and 1,000 thoughts raced through my head. Why a pear? Why here? Why so secretly? I didn't want him to know I wasn't sleeping. It was too awkward. I just let him do what he was doing. Let him eat his pear. The next night, it all repeated. Door opened again. Kirill lay down beside me again. This time I decided to act different. I felt him eating the pear again. I carefully turned toward him. "Kirill," I whispered, trying to sound sleepy. He flinched. "Mom, you awake?" His voice was quiet, with notes of fright. "No, sweetie, I woke up," I answered, looking into his eyes. He turned away, trying to hide the pear. "Don't stress, Kirill. It doesn't bother me. Do whatever you want. Just don't do it somewhere else, sweetie. I just worry about you. It's important to me that you stay safe," I said, gently stroking his hair. I didn't know how else to voice my thoughts so he'd get I wasn't judging, just worried. After that talk, everything changed. The tension hanging in the air between us vanished. Kirill started coming to my room almost every night. Sometimes he just lay beside me and silently hugged me. And sometimes he brought fresh, juicy pears with him. He ate them next to me, sometimes even offering me a bite. It seemed super weird to me, but at the same time, I felt we got closer. In these nightly rituals, there was something intimate, something that let us be ourselves without masks or pretending. I've been a widow for 10 years, and in that time, I got used to loneliness. I forgot what male tenderness feels like, what it's like to be desired. And suddenly, my son, unconsciously, filled that emptiness. It was wrong. I knew. It was on the edge, or maybe beyond the line. But at the same time, I felt so alive. His touch, his presence beside me, it was such a long-forgotten feeling. I felt ashamed and good at the same time. Our nights became regular. Sometimes it happened 2 or even 3 times a night. Kirill became even more caring, more attentive. He started working more to be able to buy me whatever I want. He brought me gifts. Often they were beautiful thin silk scarves or elegant brooches, or just baskets of the finest pears. He always tried to make me feel good. One evening at dinner, he suddenly said, "Mom, I met a girl. She's like super nice. We studied together at the university. I want to marry her." My heart clenched. I felt such sharp pain, such jealousy, that I surprised myself. How is this possible? Do I even have the right? He's my son. Inside me, conflicting feelings fought: pride for him, joy for his happiness, but at the same time, bitterness and disappointment. "You want to get married and ditch me?" My voice cracked. He jumped up right away, came over, and hugged me. "Mom, what you talking about? Could I ever ditch you? Never. I ain't getting married, I swear. I'll always be with you, always take care of you. You're the most important thing in my life." He said it so real, looking straight in my eyes, that I believed him. And he kept his word. More than 2 years already passed, and we still live just the 2 of us. Our relationship, it turned routine. It became our normal, something taken for granted. We lived like husband and wife, but without the official status. And I felt good, and him too, seemed like. But something changed in me. I started looking at the world, at men, different. Mini summary of part 2. Irina, after Kirill left strange stains in her room, tries to figure his behavior. At night, Kirill comes to her room again and eats a pear. Irina pretends to sleep, but the next night decides to talk, expressing her care. This changes their bond. Kirill starts coming regularly, eats pears beside her, and gets more attentive. Irina, being a widow, feels her son fills her emotional and physical emptiness while realizing the wrongness. When Kirill says he wants to marry, Irina feels jealousy, but he swears not to leave her. 2 years passed, and their relationship became everyday normal. Review of part 2. 9. Continue. Irina's story. Part 3. In the web of temptation, my days became different. Going out, I caught guys' stares on me before I didn't notice or pretended not to. Now I started seeing how they look at me, at my new tight wool skirts I wore more often, at elegant blouses with deep neckline that slightly opened collarbones on seamed stockings I now put on even to the store. I felt more confident, more desired. I started going to the market in our small town of Baraboo more. There are always lots of people and you could chat with vendors. I especially loved the produce row. Sellers were friendly, chatty. They always praised my picks, told about fresh stuff. One of them, young guy named Sergey, with strong arms and open smile, always offered me the ripest pears. "Irina, try this pear. It's like honey. Sweet, sweet," he said, handing me the juicy fruit. I got shy, but took it. His gaze lingered on my calves when I bent to pick fruit, then rose to my face. He always found reason to talk, asked about weather, weekend plans. My Kirill still worked hard. Often he stayed late, coming back after I already hit the sack. Exactly those evenings, when Kirill wasn't home, I felt extra lonely. And then I remembered Sergey, his smile, his words, his look. One day when Kirill was at work, I headed to the market. Sergey, as always, was there. "Irina, you look amazing today." His eyes sparkled. When he handed me the bag of pears, I felt blush flood my cheeks. We got talking. He told about his life, I about mine. At some point he asked, "So you live alone?" I hesitated. "Well, yeah, with my son, but he's often away for work." I lied, not knowing why. His eyes lit up. "So you free tonight?" he asked with a light smile. My heart beat faster. "Maybe," I whispered. "Then maybe I'll stop by. Got more pears like these, the sweetest, just for you." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. I felt something inside me respond. I knew it was wrong. It was dangerous, but I couldn't say no. I gave him my address. In the evening, when it got dark, knock at the door. I opened. On the doorstep stood Sergey with a big basket full of choice pears. He wore a clean, ironed shirt, hair slightly damp like he just showered. He looked super attractive. "Hello, Irina," he said, handing me the basket. "Come in, Sergey," I invited, trying to look calm, though inside everything fluttered. We sat in the kitchen, drank tea, ate pears. Talk flowed easy and relaxed. Sergey was a great listener. His eyes never left me. At some point he stood and came to me. "You're so beautiful, Irina," he whispered, touching my hand. His touch was gentle but super sure. I held my breath. I felt his warmth, his breath on my cheek. His eyes dropped to my lips. I didn't resist. That night my apartment, used to silence and calm, filled with new sounds, new scents. Pear aroma mixed with male cologne and something else, something heady and forbidden. Sergey stayed with me till deep night. We talked, laughed, and then came what I couldn't imagine. His hands, his touches, they were different. Not like Kirill's. They were skilled, insistent, but still tender. He knew how to give pleasure. After that night, Sergey became a regular guest in my house. Always, of course, when Kirill wasn't there. And not just Sergey. When I went to the market again, other vendors started noticing me too. Michael, apple seller, always showered compliments on my long manicured fingers when I picked fruit. Anatoly, strawberry trader, always praised my new lace-up leather flats I wore almost daily. I couldn't explain to myself why I did it. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was betrayal to my son who cared for me so sincerely. I knew it was sin, but I couldn't stop. I understood I walked on thin ice. Guilt gnawed inside, but at the same time, I felt incredibly alive. I was like spellbound, plunged into a whirlpool of new sensations and emotions. It felt like a dream I feared waking from. Mini summary of part 3. Irina starts noticing heightened male attention. She herself changes clothing style to emphasize her femininity. At the market in Baraboo, she meets vendor Sergey, who shows clear interest, offering her pears to try and compliments. In Kirill's absence, Irina agrees to host Sergey at home. Their meeting turns into intimate connection, filled with new sensations for Irina and pear scents. After this, Irina keeps making similar acquaintances with other market vendors, feeling mixed guilt and new life buzz, knowing it's all wrong but unable to stop. Review of Part 3. Continue. Irina's story. Part 4. In the whirlpool of passions. My life turned into a chain of secret hookups. In the morning, I was caring mom for Kirill, made him breakfast, packed him for work, listened to his work stories. And then, when he left, I turned into a different woman. A woman who chased new thrills, new touches. I got even pickier about my look. My wardrobe added new stuff. Flowing silk dress with slits that flashed legs when walking, sky-high stiletto pumps that made me feel taller and bolder. Of course, fishnet stockings, which became my kind of fetish. I wore them almost non-stop, even at home, under clothes, just to feel them on my skin. Market vendors became my steady fans. Sergey, Michael, Anatoly, and others joined. Igor, who sold honey, always found excuse to touch my hand passing a jar. And Vadim, butcher with his strong arms, always threw loaded looks at my hips. When I passed his counter, I noticed I started acting more flirty, more open. My laugh got louder, gaze bolder. I totally got something shady was going on. In my house, the house where my son lived, stuff happened that couldn't be explained. I felt tangled in my own lies. Each new hookup brought quick pleasure, but guilt always trailed. But I couldn't do anything with myself. It was like a drug. Every time I thought last time, I went back. Sometimes after another hookup, I lay in bed staring at ceiling, and real fear hit. Fear of how easy I slid into this pit. Fear of deceiving my own son. Fear of angering God. I prayed, begged forgiveness, promised myself tomorrow would change. But new day came. Kirill left for work, and I reached for the phone again to set up a meet. One day coming back from market, I ran into our neighbor, Aunt Olga. She stopped me and, lowering voice, said, "Irina, you're totally blooming. Guys check you out, and some already gossip. Your vendors, they don't know you got a grown son. Yeah, and overall, folks in our Beloit catch everything fast. Watch yourself, sweetie, so it don't go bad." Period. I felt blood rush to my face, so rumors already spreading. It stung, but didn't stop me. Feeling of anything goes already rooted too deep. Kirill noticed nothing or acted like he didn't. He stayed wrapped in his work, his care for me. He still came to me at night, ate his pears, hugged me. And every time he was near, I felt even guiltier, but also more desired. His touch, his warmth, it felt so natural for us. It became part of our life. I savored those moments while hating myself for my weakness. I started jumping at every rustle, every doorbell. What if Kirill finds out? What if one of my market guys bumps into him on the street and spills? I pictured his face, his letdown. That thought caused unbearable pain. But even that fear couldn't stop me. My life turned double game, where I was both victim and culprit. I felt I was losing grip on myself, on my life. I was like caught in a whirlpool carrying me farther from shore, and I didn't know how to get out. Mini summary of part 4. Irina's life split. Daytime she's caring mom, evening she hunts new thrills, switching style and heavy on fetishes like fishnet stockings. Her market acquaintances turned into constant secret hookups, bringing fleeting pleasure but heavy guilt. Irina knows her behavior's wrong. She's deceiving her son and angering God, but can't stop. Rumors about her behavior start spreading in town. Kirill notices nothing, keeps caring for her, which amps her guilt. She lives in constant fear of exposure, feeling she's losing control, trapped in passion's whirlpool. Review of Part 4, 9 out of 10. Continue. Irina's story, Part 5, The Last Straw. Days replaced each other, and the whirlpool of my secret life sucked me deeper. I almost couldn't tell reality from this new dangerous game. My market buddies got so bold they started showing up uninvited under any excuse. They knew Kirill's work hours and used it. I, like under a spell, couldn't say no. I lost all sense of limit. But stopping was beyond me. My body, once only my husband's, then my son's, now became common property. It was disgusting, and I hated myself for it. But at the same time, something in it kept me restless. My mood flipped several times a day. I could be cheerful and carefree, then minute later sink into deep gloom. I started sleeping bad. Nightmares tormented me. In dreams, I saw myself in a huge fruit orchard. Trees hung heavy with pears. I tried to run, but pears fell right on me, surrounding from all sides, and their sweet, cloying scent choked me. One day, Kirill came back from work earlier than usual. I was just sitting in the kitchen with Michael, that same apple vendor who loved my long fingers so much. We were drinking tea, laughing. I wore a thin spaghetti strap house dress, and on my feet lace ballet flats. Hearing the key in the lock, I flinched. Michael, too. My heart dropped. I only managed to whisper to him, "Back door, quick!" He vanished instantly. Kirill walked into the kitchen. He right away spotted 2 glasses on the table, plate with pear cores, and a weird foreign smell in the air. Male cologne smell, not his. He looked at me. His eyes, they were full of such letdown, such pain. I couldn't hold his gaze. "Mom, what's going on here?" His voice was quiet, but steel rang in it. I dropped my eyes, unable to answer. He stepped to the table, picked up 1 glass. "You what?" "You what, Mom? Why you doing this?" His voice cracked. I still stayed silent. He looked at me, then again at the glass, then at the pear cores. In his eyes, understanding slowly flared, mixed with disgust and hurt. In that moment, I got it was over. My little world I worked so hard to build collapsed in a flash. I saw the light die in his eyes, his trust crumble. I felt like the most disgusting woman alive. "Mom, this is because of me," he whispered. And in his voice was so much pain, so much confusion. My heart tore apart. He stepped back from the table, slowly turned, and headed for the door. "Kirill, where are you going? Wait! I yelled, trying to stop him, but he didn't look back. He just left the kitchen. Then I heard the front door slam. I rushed to the window, saw him walking down the street fast, determined steps. He didn't glance back. He just walked away. My son, my only reason for living, was leaving me, and I knew I was the only one to blame. I collapsed on the floor, face buried in my hands. Tears poured. I hated myself, hated my weakness, my lust, my stupidity. I lost everything. I lost Kirill, and I knew all this was forbidden, knew it was wrong, knew I disappointed God but couldn't stop. My thoughts flapped like wounded birds. What now? How to live without him? How to atone for my sin? In that moment, lying on the floor, shattered and empty, I suddenly caught a light, familiar scent of fresh pear hanging in the kitchen air. It was everywhere, in the air, on the table, on my hands. This scent, once symbol of our strange closeness with Kirill, now became reminder of my pain, of my fall. Pear scent. It stalked me. It was everywhere. And I knew I could never shake it. Never. End.